Welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus from the Coral Laundromat Studio. It is chilly outside. If you've decided to do some laundry, you might want to just go do it at the Coral Laundromat. They have fireplaces over there on Veterans Boulevard. Addison tells me I make it sound good enough that he might want to just spend a little time over there hanging out. Maybe you want to take your laptop over and I don't know if you want to get work done or just do a little gaming while you're there, but I think you could. They have 80-pound capacity washing machines. So anything that you bring in as a challenge, I think they're up to. So check them out. 3620 Veterans Boulevard. That is the Coral Laundromat, and they sponsor our studio. Ooh, there are some things going on for the 12 days of Christmas. Have you heard? We have a prize that's being given away. It looks like this is going to be happening on Monday. When we're doing the giveaway, so that's December 15th. And it's Monday's 12 Days of Christmas Prizes from Spring Hill Suites by Marriott in Fargo. You have the opportunity to get a 2-night stay in a king suite for a weekend or weeknight. Of course, that's a little based on availability. This is a new all-suite hotel in Fargo. Has lots of modern amenities, and it's right down there by Kingpins and Sweet Shots. You are going there for holiday parties anyway, and let's face it, those holiday parties, they go into January. This is perfect for you to stay there. Vibrant lobby, stress-free travel, they have free Wi-Fi. Now, frankly, that's table stakes, kids. Everybody better have free Wi-Fi at the hotels these days. And a fitness center, because you want to get into the new year right, don't you? Don't want to give up on those holiday fitness goals. And you'll have an opportunity to have a complimentary breakfast. So be tuned in on Monday morning so that you have the opportunity to win this 12 Days of Christmas. It's a prize from Spring Hill Suites Marriott of Fargo. All right, today, so many things going on. Do I say that every day? Is that repetitive? But I really like to keep things moving along. Plenty of information, lots of good ideas. And if you hear something, maybe you only catch a snippet of it and you don't want to miss the details, you can send me emails. My email is ag@flagfamily.com. That email inbox is powered by Superior Grain Equipment. Those folks have superior grain storage, drying, and handling solutions. They are superiorbins.com. You can call me today. I welcome those on the JLA Insurance phone line, 701-293-9000. And of course, there's the live stream where you can watch, see what's going on as far as antics for today. And Lighthouse Commodities makes sure that you can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Acres TV, where you can look for us under WDAY Weather and Ag in Focus. Speaking of the weather out there, it's brisk. I'm not sure if everybody else has noticed. Might want to put on a pair of gloves if you're going to be hanging around out there for a while. It could be categorized as dangerously cold, and that's going to happen through the weekend. Also, some strong winds. If you looked at the road report, I haven't had a chance to look at it in the last hour, but there was some blowing and drifting snow, etc., on major highways across the state. And that is set to continue through most of the day. We also know that these cold winds are bringing in an Arctic cold front, and that will continue to bring us more blowing, drifting snow, etc. And we hope the winds relax tonight, but with that cold weather, we could have wind chills between 20 and 45 below through Saturday. It's great to make ice, so that's helpful for you ice fishermen, but it is a royal pain if you happen to be farming and wanting to keep waterers open so that you have livestock that are continuing to be fed. If you have to spend any extended period outside, bundle up. Let's take this with some seriousness because right now, staying warm, oh, it's going to be pretty important. So don't lose out on that. Now, that weather is brought to you by Progressive Ag. They are our risk management specialists. We have so many fun things I want to share. First of all, one of them, the 12 days of Cheesemas. All right, raise your hands. How many of you are big cheese fans? And I don't mean the Green Bay Packers. Well, Red-Headed Creamery and Milkmaid Catering are offering a cheesy advent calendar. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but this sort of speaks to my heart. You want to give me free cheese? Yes, I will take that. So this partnership puts a local cheesy spin on the trend of advent calendars. I've seen some that are bourbons. I saw one yesterday that was tea bags, but by God, the cheese sounds like it's a great idea. So for those who might not realize, Advent calendars originated in the 19th century back in Germany, and it was a way to mark the days leading up to Christmas. And it was done through chalk marks on doors, later printed calendars. Pretty soon, people were doing chocolates and trying to create other popularity. Even small toys have been a part of it. But Red-Headed Creamery and Milkmaid Catering have partnered up to get these cheesy Advent calendars. I think they're a fantastic idea. If you are looking to find one of them, well, you can go ahead and check them out by looking at the redheadcreamery.com, and orders can be delivered or picked up at the Red-Headed Creamery in Bruton or from Milkmaid in Fargo. And also, if you are looking for other things like Advent candy calendars, you could buy them at Unglued and Bruhala. Vintage Point in Fargo has several of them as well. So have a little bit of fun. We're definitely into the 12 days of Christmas. Don't miss out on making sure you share the goodies as well. Well, we will be hosting one of our guests today, and that's Gregg Hanson with Market Uncovered. Been a few things that happened in the commodity market this last week. Having to do with the WDAY report, we've got some questions on corn acres that have come in, and even what may be happening as we watch the end of the year, what could maybe drive some of our markets for a little uptick as farmers are maybe planning to empty some bins and haul some grain into the elevator for the end of the year. So we'll be talking about that with Gregg in our next segment. Definitely call this Weather and Ag. Well, let's have a little history lesson, shall we? First of all, for many, if you recall those stories in elementary school, when you heard about the Pilgrims and how they learned agriculture from the Native Americans when they arrived here in this country. And really, it looks like what we would call intercropping or companion planting today. What they were doing is the Three Sisters method, and it referred to three different crops: corn, beans, and squash. And they were planted together for multiple reasons. First of all, these three items were a big part of the original diet that people were eating. Corn brought in carbohydrates and a number of dietary needs. Beans brought protein and nutrients that, frankly, the corn, or maize as you may call it, did not. Squash, which was primarily winter squashes, and then later on more pumpkins and gourds, squash brought a lot of vitamins for folks at the time. So this companion planting or intercropping, what they did was to use the symbiotic relationship between these three different plants to help each other. The corn had a sturdy stalk, and it gave those beans a trellis to climb and wrap the vines around. Because we have to think about beans at the time as not necessarily a bushy upright soybean, but more like the viney green beans that you can still plant in your garden. Then after that, that corn had a very fibrous, shallow root system that grew into the soil and gave stability for it, especially if you were in areas of high erosion. When you planted the beans, they have a taproot. They go deeper below where the corn root would be, and so they didn't interfere with each other. But those beans carried a bacteria called rhizobia, which would then pull nitrogen from the air and convert it to an ammonia. That then provided the ammonia for the corn. And frankly, all of that squash and that vine cover, that was another great way to not only protect against soil erosion, but hold moisture into the soil for the whole planting system. So this was done for many centuries and really is still thought of as a great way to interseed a variety of crops. As I watch some folks do interesting things, you might say, on like Twitter, they are looking at planting wheat in between soybeans. And so you could have two different heights of crops. You could potentially be combining one while the other then continues growing. So that symbiotic intercropping relationship is still being considered today. So there's one little history lesson in agriculture just to start out our day. Again, if you'd like to reach out, you can, especially when Gregg Hanson joins me from Hanson AgriCommodities for Market Uncovered. You can reach me at 701-293-9000. That is the JLA Insurance phone line. Hey, Nate Thorsrud, he's a farmer and a crop insurance agent. And with some of the changes that are coming up for crop insurance in the new year, you're going to want to talk to Nate at JLA Insurance. And you can send me those emails, ag@flagfamily.com. Thank you, Superior Grain Equipment, for powering my inbox. Or just keep watching on Facebook, YouTube, and Acres TV brought to us by Lighthouse Commodities. We are going to take the time to hear the updated livestock market from the American Ag Network. And again, when we return, we're going to talk commodity markets. Then we want to continue with a number of things. We want to talk about some other fun facts in agricultural crops. We want to talk about um, some offers from companies in the area, well, and some tractors. They're a familiar name that's kind of back in the limelight. We'll do that when we return. Oh, it's a chilly day in the neighborhood, but it's December, and there's a big Arctic cold front moving through. Might let us have a high of 2 today, overnight low of minus 17. And tomorrow, our high of minus 4 with a low of minus 24. Stay warm out there, folks. Don't let this cold get to you because it's brutal. Nonetheless, we want to say thank you to Progressive Ag Risk Management Specialists for always making sure that you are top of the weather every single day. All right, our guest right now is Gregg Hanson. He is with Hanson AgriCommodities. This is Market Uncovered. And Greg, there was a number of things in the market this week that were notable. What are the highlights on your list?
Well, the one highlight is, hey, with the correction in the board, we did see the Chinese show up and start to buy. We've seen now, what, 3, 4 days in a row, whether they were announcements big enough to get reported from the USDA or whether just in the grain trade hearing things getting done, that, we've set the market back enough where we're finally price competitive. And that's kind of been my comment for the last few weeks is once the deal got done, the market ran away from the Chinese and we became overvalued. And I was kind of making a comment, we probably need to have a correction and just get to where we get to a price that we get their attention. It feels like we're there now. And it's feeling like we are definitely seeing the Chinese come in and doing some buying. Um, a few weeks ago, oh, they bought 3-4 million tons of the 12. Well, when you start adding up the sales that have been announced and the ones that you kind of hear through the grain business, we might be up to 7 million tons of the 12. The negative is we don't really see it from the basis, the cash side, because rail freight's highly expensive. Um, and so we're not necessarily getting the fluff we were kind of hoping to on the cash bid, but we're finally getting to a price objective now where the Chinese can step in and buy. I am still of the believer they'll get the 12 million tons bought. It'd be nice if it was sooner than later. The part that is kind of disgusting to me is that the other day we could put our finger on about 11 boats of beans, and they were
Mm-hmm.
bought by the Chinese. But 9 of them were going to get loaded out of the Gulf, only 2 out of the West Coast. And part of the problem is, while the market waited for the Chinese to show up, the railroads and the exporters did just sit on their hands and wait. They started going and doing corn business, and the numbers are saying, and the grain business is kind of saying that we will probably see record corn loadings off the West Coast. And so that's a positive when you think of all the corn sitting out here in piles and emergency storage and so on. We'll chew through it and get it moved over time, but it kind of hurts our bean bid here in the short term in that we're not seeing these shuttles moving with soybeans like is normal this time of year, but it's going to be a lot of corn. So it's been a
Uh-huh.
shuffling of where things are getting loaded at, which for us where we live, we need all this business to be West Coast, and there's going to be a lot of corn business. That'll help us chew through the corn. It's not helping our beans as much as it should.
Okay. You mentioned corn, and fortuitously, I have a question here for you from a listener. Corn acres look to trim back in 2026. What should I be doing to prepare for that in regards to my old crop? I have limited bin storage for that. So, what should I be looking for? As you just mentioned, there's a lot of corn on the move. Maybe it's just watching local cash markets, or should there be some future plans being made, Greg?
Well, I think you got to look at both. I guess from the future side, it feels like beans, ran where corn didn't run like you would anticipate based on the same price move, the relationship. And I think part of that is just the crop was so big. We just got through this week's crop report. The government did go and raise our exports 100 million. That's on top of the 125 from a month ago. So 225 million bushel corn and export increase in just 2 months, and you can't argue that we're well on the pace when it comes to the loading side. The sales
Mm-hmm.
side, we keep selling corn, and so it could happen. That puts our carry out 2.0 instead of 2.1. It feels like we'll chew through this corn. There are every once in a while you'll see a processor here, and this as you get here in the Dakotas, southern Minnesota, you'll see a processor poke his head up. We're chewing through corn, and every once in a while someone needs to pay a little bit extra. It's just going to take some time to move this crop. It's going to take some time. So you kind of watch and see, do we get a shuttle loader who maybe in a pinch needs a little bit of corn because of a weather issue? Do you find a processor who maybe I say maybe because of a weather or a holiday, hey, I'll pay a little extra and move a little more sooner. So you kind of just watch your local markets and see if someone kind of pokes their head up willing to pay a little extra. On the future side, we got to watch South American weather, see if, there's been a lot of good rainfall lately. It feels like part of the setback has been good rainfall in South America. The crop is far from made. So do we get a chance to talk some weather going forward? It feels like over time we'll grind through this thing. But the next crop report is, that 8th to 12th January range. I haven't looked at my calendar to see the exact date, but that's going to be a big report. We're not only going to get
Okay.
a final corn yield, which there's a lot of discrepancies on the corn yield, even state by state. But we're also going to get a quarterly stocks report. And the quarterly stocks report especially on the corn end for the last 15, 20 years, that's when you get some of your fireworks. And whether it's good or bad, you tend to get a lot of price moves on those dates because there's a lot of uncertainty. That's coming up just in 4.5, 4 weeks away. So there's could be some opportunity out there. So I guess kind of when it comes to the future side, try to keep your powder dry a little bit so that if this market does give us a move, you can take advantage of it. In the short term, it's more about, can we get someone to poke their head up? Maybe you can find out as we grind higher, 3, 4, 5 cent improvement, take advantage of that basis opportunity. If you haven't done so, don't forget about that corn and that beans and the wheat and the bend. Make sure you're pulling centers, making sure that air can get through those bends, just some preventative maintenance things. And that's kind of what we're looking at here is let's make sure that that corn and that bean and that wheat crop comes out of the bend next spring, summer, looking the same way it did when it went in. So let's pull a few loads out, get all the centers pulled, move a little bit, and it helps generate a little bit of cash flow. So I would just say, I think there'll be some opportunity. Are we going to go to $5 board? Not without a weather scare somewhere, but we're wintertime. Grain movement's going to slow up a little bit. There might be some opportunities if you're watching your local markets.
I think I heard you say that the WDAY report that came out this week is not going to be as impactful as the January report, correct?
I would say that January report is probably one of the top 2 reports of the year because you're getting so much data.
Okay.
We're going to get that final corn yield, that final bean yield, and that quarterly stocks report. Those tend to be explosive in the past.
Okay. And that's kind of what my question was going to be is, okay, so we're watching the report right now, but January, let's not lose sight of that one. Of course, never going to stop checking on this. We saw some more action from China, et cetera. Do you think they're going to reach their goal by the end of February?
My personal bias has been yes. And the reason is when I was doing the math all summer long, they need a certain amount of soybeans. And this 12 million tons is kind of the middle of the range of what I was looking for. So I'm of the firm belief that, yes, they do need it. Could that number change? Now, will they do the 25 million for next year? All bets are off. It depends on South America's crop and Argentina's crop. I still believe they are trying to eliminate us as a supplier over time. And every year we will just, on average, do a little less all the time. So do I think they'll do 25 million in the calendar year of 2026? I'm not holding my breath. They've never lived up to a trade agreement yet. But when it comes to the short term, the 12 million tons, I'm of the camp, yes, I think they're going to get it done. Now, the purchases by the end of January, the loadings might take till the end of May to get them all loaded, but the actual, they will have it physically bought by a certain date. I'm still of the camp that, yeah, I think it'll happen.
And the cash trade is what matters, right? As long as we get paid for it, it can ship whenever that's possible.
Correct.
One last question for you, Greg. And I don't know if this is one for you to answer or not, but I did have it come from a listener. With the uptick in gold and silver, is that impactful in any way to the ag commodity markets, or is there any insight you have for that?
It can be. I mean, it's still a commodity. So yes, when it comes to commodities and just when you talk like an inflation trade, rising tide raises all boats. And so if we see the gold and the silver going up and we see like some of those metals, we see some of the soft trade, like here even today, orange juice was up strong again today. If you tend to see all of these different commodities going up, you tend to see more and more money just put into commodities as a whole. And like here again, then especially if you are concerned about inflation, and if that's the reason you're going into these different commodities, yeah, a rising tide will raise all boats, and it could definitely help the grain end as far as just being a commodity in that basket for trades.
I don't think that's the last time you're going to get that question, especially as we continue to see that price grow. I mean, right now, silver I believe it's its all-time high at $60 an ounce.
It's way up there. And then your argument is, well, if you've got this at that price and this at another price and this thing at a price, but then you've got a commodity lagging. Well, at some point, will someone say, well, you know what? I want to be in commodities because I am nervous about inflation. Um, and this one looks cheap to the rest. I don't want to buy silver at the highs. I don't want to buy gold near the
Mhm.
highs. I want to buy something where I think I'm buying some value. And hey, maybe corn's undervalued when I look at the basket of commodities. And that's where, like I say, the rising tide can raise all boats.
Greg, thank you for joining us on Fridays for Market Uncovered. Gregg Hanson is with Hanson AgriCommodities. Ooh, how can folks find you?
Well, real quickly, just pick up the phone, dial 507 338 6433. You can check out our Facebook page, Hanson AgriCommodities, or if you want to go to our website, hanson-ag.com.
Thanks, Greg. News is up next. Be back shortly. I feel like today's Weather and Ag in Focus is not only brought to you by the Coral Laundromat Studio, but tiny cough drops that keep Bridgette from blowing your eardrums out when a cough wants to overwhelm her. So I'm doing my best, doing my best. And it's one of those short nagging coughs that doesn't want to go away, but nothing else is associated with it. You all know what I'm talking about. It's been happening to most of us in the last month. Nonetheless, USDA is planting to finish their reorganization effort by the end of 2026. So they've got a year from now. They want to shift more than half department's Washington-based workforce to 5 regional hubs. We've heard this discussion before. The plan is to relocate more than 2,000 positions to places like Raleigh, North Carolina, Kansas City, Indianapolis, Fort Collins, oh, there it is, and Salt Lake City. So the original plan was to reduce the National Capital Region workforce from 4,600 employees to no more than 2,000 once this transition is complete. Now, there are farm groups and stakeholders who have raised concerns about how this is going to affect agency operations and staffing, but USDA has not yet released public comments on the proposal. When public comments open, this is going to be an ideal time for so many of our farmers and those who are affected by these sweeping changes to share their thoughts, because I hear it frequently. Why vote? Nobody's listening to me anyway. Public comments matter. And coming from the previous career that I had, where we had to do open comments a lot for EPA, particularly with pesticides, they are weighed out. And because you are an end user as a farmer, it does matter what your opinion is and what you share. So don't be shy about that. Make sure that when public comment periods open and it's a matter near and dear to you, that you take the time to share it. Now, short little cough and history lesson. All right, baby carrots. Addison, well, this is going to be rude. Are you older than 36? Let me put it that way.
No, I'm not.
Okay, I did not think so. Now, if you are older than 36, you very much remember the debut of baby carrots. Some folks think that they're truly raised that way, but nope, that's not how it started. Back in 1989, I remember it well, there was no such thing as a bag of baby carrots on the grocery store shelf. What in fact happened was that there was a California farmer by the name of Mike Urosic, and he wanted to find a use for thousands of pounds of misshapen and broken carrots that were getting discarded every year. Because we tend to buy and eat with our eyes. We like pretty food. Nobody goes to the grocery store saying, can't wait to find those brown bananas. No, that's not how it works. And so for baby carrots, the inspiration was, how can we use what other people don't necessarily want to buy? And as a gardener myself, I can tell you, I get some pretty funky looking carrots coming out of the ground sometimes. Well, what happened was Urosic decided he could sell a better way. And he took the first batch and got his employees together, and they went after him with potato peelers. They cut and cleaned all these broken and misshapen carrots by hand. But then he caught on to using an industrial green bean cutter, which would cut things into 2-inch pieces. Perfect. That became the standard size for machine cut baby carrots. So with a little bit of practice, and they started bagging them, Urosic went to his best customer, Vaughn's Supermarkets in Los Angeles, and said, would you give these a try? At the time, carrots, a 1-pound bag of carrots, was selling for about 17 cents retail. Everybody's currently checking their store flyers to see what carrots are costing today. But the 1-pound baby carrots, well, that could be sold for 50 cents. So suddenly the profitability had changed. The consumer's desire truly shifted. And now baby carrots have become about a $1.7 billion business. Over $1 billion came from just cutting a carrot into smaller pieces. Imagine that. So if you're also wondering about other little bits of agricultural history, let's talk about rice. Greek rice farmers have struggled for years with intense drought and also increasing competition. But the country of Greece is a prime wedding location. Over 50,000 weddings are held across their country every year. I feel like you can't walk very far without stumbling over yet another wedding party. But in the long-time tradition of Greek weddings, you would toss rice at the newlyweds, and that would consume nearly 200 metric tons of edible full-grain rice every year. So there's such a thing as broken rice, which is damaged during harvest or processing, and that would account for around 9% of Greece's rice exports. But the majority of it would get discarded, going to animal feed. Well, there had to be a way, and some farmers got together and realized they could rebrand the broken rice as wedding rice. They are now selling over 3 tons of broken rice as wedding rice in just the summer months in Greece. And it gave rice farmers a potential new revenue stream and really helped reduce waste. So sometimes the things that you use every single day have a little bit more of an exciting history behind them than you might have ever expected. Now, as we are getting ready to go into the weekend, and oh baby, it's cold outside, consider ways to keep yourselves occupied. Well, a couple of things that I think might be a good idea. I am a podcast fan, and I love to share some of my favorite podcasts with other people. And personally speaking, there's some really great agricultural podcasts out there. If you have not yet found Barn Talk, Farm for Profit, or the Agronomist Happy Hour, I strongly recommend them. In addition, shameless plug here, I am part of 2 different podcasts. One is called The Real Well. And with The Real Well, I have a podcasting partner from Ontario. She is a sheep farmer and the CEO of the National Farmers Mental Health Alliance. She is a certified counselor. And what we do on The Real Well is talk about situations specifically on the farm or in rural areas and try to help you have the tools and the resources to work through them in a positive way. Secondly, on Fridays on Twitter at 11:30, I know it's X, but I still call it Twitter. But at 11:30 every Friday, I host the Nooner Chat. That was indeed named by a farmer because it was 11:30. It was right before the noon hour, you might say. And so on the Nooner Chat today, I had an outstanding guest. Robin Hanson is from the central part of Iowa. She and her husband Brock not only farm, raise their kids, and run a trucking operation. She has been a caterer, has spent 19 years on their local ambulance squad as an EMT, and her husband has been the fire chief for about 25. The gist of our conversation today with Robin, as someone living in a rural area and also as a very active farmer herself, was to advocate for your own health. Robin knew that her body was telling her that something was wrong. She's been on a 3-year journey that included 9 different surgeries and 42 rounds of chemo. She has found cancer not only in her colon, it has metastasized to her liver and lungs, but she's beating it back all the time. She has self-recommended, if you will, to the Mayo Clinic to seek further help when she believed that her local doctors in Iowa were not able to give her the help that she needed. And because of that, she is here today to talk about it. She's a huge advocate, especially for farmers, to take care of themselves. If you think something is wrong, go in, check it out, and learn more. One of the surprising things that she mentioned today through her research that she's found, those of us in the Midwest, it's a little more difficult to have lung scans and so forth done because most of us will find speckling in our lungs, oftentimes due to grain dust. For those who are older, it may have to do with times that you've been in dirt storms. And I know I should call it soil, but I think when it's in the air and it's no longer a living organism, now it's dirt. And she said that's some of the things that can affect us in our overall health in rural areas that we should be aware of. She's a strong advocate to make sure that we stay healthy. And if you'd like to hear that discussion, you can find it on my Twitter page under my name on Twitter. You can listen to that, and it will be released as the Nooner podcast, Nooner Chat podcast coming up in the new year. And I can make sure people know when that's available too. Don't forget you can call. Questions, suggestions, ideas today? Any road reports out there? Reach me on the JLA insurance phone line, 701-293-9000. Hope you're watching Acres TV, Facebook, or YouTube, brought to us by Lighthouse Commodities. And I just double checked my email inbox, sponsored by Superior Grain Storage. And so far, so good, but you can send me emails, ag@flagfamily.com. We will be back to take a look at the weather one more time. Oh, and I still have a whole line of news items. We'll return. All right, I did have a question from a listener asking, what exactly is in that cheesy advent calendar from Redhead Creamery and Milkmaid Catering in Fargo? Okay, so we don't want to completely spoil the surprise for the Cheesemas advent calendar, but there should be fresh curds, some well-aged variety like a little Lucy Brie. Um, oh, that actually paired with a s'more last year. Everything is well assembled fresh. There can also be some snacks that go along with it, like perhaps, so, let's see, some nuts or salamis. So it sounds like this is pretty unique. So if you're interested, again, go look for that on their websites for the Redhead Creamery or the Milkmaid Catering in Fargo. Headlines to look at today. The EPA has announced it is reviewing the data on the herbicide paraquat. That ability to volatilize from treated field is possible, and there's new information from Syngenta Crop Protection, who is one of the manufacturers of paraquat. So the EPA has announced it will be asking for more data from all paraquat manufacturers. After approval of updated labels in 2021, the EPA has said that Syngenta submitted a new paraquat vapor pressure study in January 2024 under FIFRA, which is the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act. Pesticide registrants are required under FIFRA to submit new information that could be regarding unreasonable adverse effects to EPA. Vapor pressure is a key parameter that influences the extent to which pesticide surface residues may convert into gaseous vapors that could move through the air. A pesticide's ability to vaporize could potentially affect workers or others who might be in the area. We do know that paraquat is mostly used in a closed system setup. Not all farms use it. It is an effective tool in parts of North Dakota for kochia, and we don't want anybody using that product in an unsafe manner because, again, it can be one that is best used in a closed tank system, etc. All right, an old name is back again. Well, the Farmall Tractor series, this is the M series, is coming out from Case IH, and it is designed to bring more power and performance in everyday applications, even through your most demanding tasks. They have integrated technology, heightened the operator comfort, and that series delivers a very superior productivity and execution. The Farmall M, available as the 100M, the 110M, or the 120M models, well, they feature a four-cycle, four-cylinder, 3.6 liter stage 5 engine that brings you about 100 to 120 horsepower. We sometimes forget on farms that we don't all need giant quad tracks, right? Sometimes we need some smaller pieces of equipment to do smaller jobs. And this, in fact, might fit that position on your farm. The M has a very generous 5,200 kilogram rear lift capacity, 8-ton gross vehicle weight, and gets top speeds of just over 1,900 RPMs. So when it comes to being able to use this tractor, it's very flexible for everyday use. It's built to be very durable, multi-purpose. The active drive 16 by 16 semi-power shift transmission gives you very precise speed control, has up to 8 automatic gear shifts, and an optional front axle suspension that brings increased traction and stability depending on the terrain that you might be working in. When we talk about increased cab comfort, there are times that people think, why would that matter? Now, frankly, if you are traveling in your car and it's uncomfortable, you'd notice. Spending time on tractors on your farm, same thing. You want optimal cab comfort because you might be in there for quite an extended period of time. So the cab and front axle suspension gives you that much more smooth ride. You've got a front hood design, a one-piece front windscreen, after treatment system under the hood, and even better, LED lighting. Because frankly, there's plenty of times it gets dark early and you're still out doing some work. There are driving aids like a clutchless shuttle, auto shift, and the mid-mount joystick is electronic. So there's some distinct packages that the customer can choose from, but again, you can use some of the precision technology with it as well, like field ops. It can be equipped with a subscription-free entry-level Tematic and so much more. So if you're thinking about that smaller tractor, smaller horsepower that's the right fit for your farm, And you remember the farmalls from way back when. We can often say, Grandpa had a farmall, Dad had a favorite farmall. This might be a tractor that you want to look at using. Those great names are back again. I've talked before about TerraClear. They are a company in this region where they can fly a drone over the field and they can pinpoint via GPS where significant size rocks are found on your field. They can send out a skid steer that can follow where those GPS points are. It's got a specially designed bucket, picks up the rocks, and gets them off your field, causing less equipment damage and certainly a much easier way to have consistent planting conditions in the field. TerraClear is running a special. It ends today. If you want information from TerraClear, you need to go to terraclear.com. You need to get signed up with them as quickly as possible for the rock mapping and then also other TerraClear services. There are service providers just into Minnesota. There's also a service provider in North Dakota out near Bismarck. Those folks would be happy to visit with you. I realize there's snow on the ground, but that doesn't mean we can stop thinking about what needs to be done this fall, next year, and so much more. So keep those things up. I hope you keep a warm winter weekend in front of you, although again, it's going to be pretty chilly. A high of -4 tomorrow, -24 overnight. Put an extra blanket on the bed. Make sure if so you're going outside, you wear your gloves. And for the love of all things holy, put a cap on the kids' heads. It's cold out there. Have a great weekend. Looking forward to talking with y'all again on Monday. Jay Thomas is out, but he's got a guest. I believe Tim Flacco will be sitting in his chair. Stay tuned for that next.